Hey everybody, Mean Joe with Balsa USA. Welcome to episode 7 of the Newport 1/6 scale Balsa USA build along. Keep in mind, if you want to keep up with the build and you want to follow us along and you want to have your very own, if you swing over to balsausa.com and enter coupon code N17 build, all caps, no spaces, you will receive 10% off of your kit. So welcome to the shop. How we doing, Chuck?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing today, Joe?
Good, real good. So I have a couple of things I want to cover before we really get digging in here. I've had a couple of awesome viewers share some stuff, and I want to bring that stuff up. So first off, I want to show, as soon as my computer screen loads here, I want to show Gary. This is Gary's build he's got going, looking very nice. Gary's doing a real good job. Looks really good. I like he got a good pick on his sheeting. That sheeting has got a really cool swirl grain to it. It looks really cool. You can almost not cover that. It looks very cool. One of the things that Gary pointed out that we didn't point out, that I knew about that we didn't point out, was these emery boards. He's talking about getting emery boards from the beauty supply place that does nails. And these are different grits of emery boards or nail files, and they work great. You can see there he's got a little piece cut off to do some detail sanding, and that's actually a pretty great idea. That actually works pretty good. I have some of those here in the shop myself. So that's what Gary's got going on. And in case you couldn't see him good in the picture, this is the kind of nail files we're talking about. You can get these at beauty supply shops. You can get them at, probably can get them at like Meijer, any big box stores that carry this kind of stuff. My wife happens to be a hairdresser, so I have an endless supply of these kind of things. And then that was Gary's build. And I wanted to take a time and show what David's got going on. So let me get that loaded up here.
Nice job, by the way, Gary.
Yeah, it looks really, really good.
He's catching up really quick, which we thought they would.
Well, it seems that I can't find the other pictures. So we'll have to maybe share David's on another episode because I'm not seeing where that file got to. I'm not going to spend time looking for it. I can tell you that. One sec, maybe that's it. Nope, that's not it. I don't know. I'll have to find it. It didn't save where I thought it did, so I don't want to waste you guys' time looking for files. So one of the first things I wanted to cover before we really get going is I wanted to show you Chuck's conversion. So we talked about last week, Chuck is going to convert his to a Newport BIS. So I had Chuck take a couple of detail photos so you can actually see what's going on. Now, me and Chuck were talking before the show, and Chuck has suggested that anybody that's going to do this BIS conversion, that they wait to do these stringers until after the airplane's almost ready to cover, because he has been breaking them left and right, handling the airplane. So
unfortunately, yeah,
it happens. Yeah, it happens. So with those tiny little stringers, that's a great plan. Just hold off on doing those until after you're ready to get. When you're almost ready to cover, I would do all the prep work. So like I would go in and go ahead and put in your formers, so your 3B, 0.5, and get all that done and get it all ready to go. Maybe even test fit everything on there so it's all ready. And then all you have to do at that point is go in and glue the stringers in. So very cool.
Yeah. And once I get into the build tonight, we'll talk a little bit further about it. But I was so excited to convert it to a BIS. It was just, I just kept going. That's just part of it. But in hindsight, if I were to do it again and pass that on to you guys, I'd like just be patient, add them a little bit farther downstream. I'll take you up to that point where all you have to do is glue them in place. Spend 5 minutes gluing, 5 minutes, a little bit of light sanding, and you're ready to cover. So it'll just be a little bit more efficient. And a little bit of stress free on yourself, but because I was absolutely fine up until we were off camera, and I was just tinkering around with some stuff, looking at stuff, and by the way I was handling it, I was just busting a couple of them in it, and I ended up cutting them off, re-gluing them on, which is not a big deal, but
It
it is what
happens.
it is.
I broke some stuff on my
but-
build too.
But that's all
We'll
part of
talk
it.
about that later too.
Yeah. But all right. So to catch up a little bit, last time, all right, I'll pull mine back on camera here. Last time we talked about adding F1s, F3s, and then on the BIS version, we added an F3.5 and how we made that. And I've got to get Joe some drawings, and he'll make that, I guess, public for you guys. But how to make F3.5, which is basically, it's just a copy of F3 without the notches. I actually cut them off below the notches. So we'll kind of come up with a little mini plan set, if you will. And also there was one viewer that talked about maybe if there was a kit option or whatever. Be honest with you guys, I made all the other stuff from scrap that I had left over in the kit. And then other than some 1/16 by 1/8 inch stringers, which you'd need 10 of those at 36-inch length. Actually, you only need 9 because the lower one, you actually only use half of it. So you only need 9 of those, and that's it. So it's a really very low cost conversion with a real high impact on the kit. So yeah, so we did, then we ended up stringering on the standard N17. Your 1/16 stringers actually run further in and stop at that cross member. Where on the BIS version, they stop here at F3.5, as Joe and I is calling it. And then at that point, like I said, I would leave those stringers off until you're darn near ready to cover, just so as you're handling this. And we're going to be doing a lot more handling on this once we get the upper wing and lower wing done. We'll have the tail group done. And we'll be putting a fuselage on its nose, and we're going to be jigging it all up, rigging it all up, if you will, for the wing. So I just, during those phases, I just see some other breaking things happen. So
I want to cover a couple things quick here. I want to say hi to everybody. We got Jim and William and Gary and Wild Bill and Sean Michaels and Bob Ahmed. Gary Knip, I pronounced that correctly, sorry. Gary says, can you please suggest a beginner 1/6 scale airplane? I've flown trainers, had some low wing aileron flying, and been away for a few years, but want to get back into it. I'm going to be honest with you, Greg. Really, any of the 1/6 scale airplanes are terrific flyers. What I would do is I would order whatever one you would like. And to be honest with you right now, I would start with the 1/6 scale Newport 17. And the reason why I'm saying that, because right now, if you enter in coupon code N17 build, all caps, no spaces, you're going to get 10% off that kit. But it is a fantastic flying plane. Probably the second choice would probably be the Pup. But you're not going to be disappointed with any of those. They're all going to fly really good. They're really docile flyers, and they would be a good transition. Now, what I would suggest while you're building that, if you're going to build it during the season especially, I would start the build, and every time you get a nice day, I would be out flying your airplanes and getting your sticks back under you again and getting comfortable. And once you get comfortable flying, you're not going to have any issues with any of the 1/6 scale models. They all fly really good.
Absolutely.
All right, go on ahead, Chuck.
Okay. And so we're back. So we also noticed that we added 3/32 plywood sheeting to the bottom of the fuse in the wing saddle area. And that is done, and I did one side already, is that when we glue on the light ply sheeting on the bulkhead, it actually has an area to rest against, almost like a footer, if you will. You notice on this side here, it is left long, and that's where that sheeting rests on. So we've added that on. There's actually a wing hold down plate that's hidden underneath that. That's on. We epoxy that in with some triangle stock, and we're good to go. So once again, just like we did on our top turtle deck here, the plans use your plans as a guide, and I use cardboard stock. This just happened to be a piece of paper. Use this, okay, before you ever cut the plywood. All right, so get this. Start with that bottom wing cut out. All right. Remember, on your N17 guide build, the standards, this is actually kind of a 2-piece fit. There's a forward piece, and then there's a small aft piece. So I'm going to obviously show you just my single piece for the BIS version, but start here in this lower corner on the the front leading edge of the wing saddle. Line that up and just start taking your pencil and putting tick marks on the paper. Make sure everything's lined up and as a good reference. All right. I'm leaving the bottom a little bit long and the firewall side, the front of the aircraft, a little bit long as well. I'm going to trim those back later. All right. So all I'm concerned about is this wing saddle fit, this edge fit here, and then finally this top fit edge. So those three things. What I did, and I suggest, is that I would, once you get this down, at least locked into a good place, is I would tape it down with some masking tape. Just hold it in place and double check all your marks. If anything changes, trim or build a new piece, and do this 2 or 3 times, okay, until you're happy with that fit. Now, on the N17 BIS, guys, remember when we add these stringers later on in the build, put them just a little bit proud, meaning they're just gonna be a slightly above the slight ply, so you can sand down to them and get a nice smooth transition. Just a little tip, tech tip there from you guys. So anyway, so obviously I've done all the trimming. I'm happy with that piece. I transferred that, laid it right on top of my plywood, and I cut it. All right. So I no longer need that piece. So now comes the moment of truth. So I'm going to transfer that down, and I'll check this fit again. Looks good. And I've tried both ways. Okay, so because I've been cutting and starting at that reference point right there at the leading edge, that's probably where I'm going to start again as well, just because I'm more comfortable on putting this thing up, down, and getting it to fit.
So one of the things that works great for that step that Chuck was just showing you is manila envelopes are perfect. They're almost exactly the same as that 64 sheeting, and they're perfect consistency, and you can lay them down on there and get your fits correctly so that when you're cutting your pattern, it's on a piece of material that's very close to that 64th ply.
And that's so true. And I ran out, so that's why I had to use regular old paper. I used them on my last project and never got any more. So did that. Nope. Okay. So once I got that in place and I'm happy with that fit, I'm just going to take a dab of CA, just kind of lock it in place somewhere, mostly along that bottom edge. And it's just I guess, guys, it's a tack glue. All right. And all that is so I can let go with one hand.
Notice how quickly that Balsa USA thin set. That was literally seconds, and he was able to let it go.
That was good stuff. Okay. So then, you notice it's tack glued on. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit. And the only part I'm going to put my thick CA on is those 3 forward cross members or longerons, right? So I'm going to peel that back. There. And there. And I apologize. I'm going to hit that F3 too as well. Okay. And then I'm just going to hold it in place until it kicks. I'm not worried about this top edge. That has nothing to do with it at this point. Also notice I did not glue F3.5 and the firewall, because we can actually glue those after the fact. What I am going to do, I got it down, my fingers, I'm going to tack glue a little bit of thin CA right there, so I can remove a finger while everything is setting down nice. Oh yeah, I can tell. That part's not glued, so I'm not worried about that. Tack glue the front.
So while he's gluing his down, his is a little different. He's doing the BIS version. I'm going to bring up what I did. So I'm doing just the traditional Newport 17 build, and I had a couple issues, and you know, I left them on there because I wanted you guys to see how I fixed it. So when I put my sheeting down, I actually ended up putting my big man hands through the side. Okay, so I have a big crack right here in this picture. So as you can see here, whoops, you can see right here, there's a huge crack. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and continued that crack. And the reason it cracked is because it had too much stress on it. Okay, so when I went to go do the F4 former stuff, it cracked. So what I did was I took that crack and I extended that crack all the way down the length of that sheeting. Just used my hobby knife. And then when I laid it down, it of course then overlapped a little bit. So then I took my hobby blade and got my reference point and ran down that where that crack was, and then CA'd it all together and sanded it flush. You can see it because you can see where I sanded the ply, but you can't feel it on the airframe. It completely disappeared. So when you cover it, you won't be able to see it. The other thing is what I did, as soon as I can get my picture to load, is, we'll just do it this way, is I went in behind where that crack was and I put in some of my scrap 3/16 square that I had left over when I made my stringers, and I glued it right in behind that crack so that that crack would have a nice solid base, so that when I started sanding it, I could sand it and get it to sand flush without having any issues. So you literally, when you feel that side of the fuselage, you can't feel that where that crack was at all. If you closed your eyes, you would never even know it was there. And, we're leaving that kind of stuff in so that we all know that, mistakes happen, and you just it's just wood. You just go in and you fix it. It's easy.
And you fix it. Yep. When you have all that scrap wood with you, whatever you break, just re-glue it. If you have broke a piece, for example, and you glued it together, re-glue it together on the inside. All right, so if there's any bumps or whatever, it's on the inside, because chances are when you flip it over, you do a quick sand on the outside, it's all nice and smooth. So I've tack glued it on up top. So I've tack glued about 3 or 4 spots up top. I've tack glued it down here. I'll go in and I'm going to tack glue this bulkhead right here from the outside, and that's nice. The CA will wick in. All right. That's sitting down nice and good. Yeah, I'm liking that. All right, and I'm going to do the same on the firewall. Tack glue, tack glue, tack glue. So we're good there. So we got a nice fit here, firewall, and now we're going to go to the bottom. So you hear my little dogs in the back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack glue this bottom edge just in a couple spots. Now, if you guys notice that runs, and there's going to be a natural gap that's going to open up right there at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. All right, that's okay. We're gonna fill that in with scrap balsa later, so that's okay for that there. So that's tack glued in place, and voila. Okay, guys, that's how easy it was. That's the hard part. So looks good now. Since everything is nice and tack glued in place, I'll take my 80 grit sandpaper, fresh grit. Remember what we said, let the sandpaper do the work for you. And I'm just gonna quickly just start blending in that edge, which will only take just a few seconds, typically. And swipe and roll with it. And once I get where I like, I got a little bit of high spot there, but we'll take care of that. There we go. And I'm going to go back in with my thin CA again, and I'm going to reapply. And that'll just make for a nice, tight, filled seam. And voila, top's done. That's how easy it was. So just double check my joints there. Really good there. Nice and tight on the firewall. And what I'm going to do on the front here, on the front bottom, depending on what you're going to do with your battery situation, if you're going to load your batteries from the bottom like Joe is, if you're doing electric version, of course, you can do a couple of things. You can make this bottom area here removable, okay, with just a simple piece of scrap light ply, a couple of corner things for screws, or it could be magnets, your choice. Even if you're doing a glow version on this and you want to have easier access to the fuel tank, or more even your batteries, your receiver battery, I would recommend doing that as well. Now that'll be a mod that you'll have to do because that's not how it is in the plans. Everything is done through here, but just an easier access point, and that's done. So I'm leaving this part here a little long because I don't know how I'm going to finish that yet and what I'm going to do there yet. But if I'm either going to have that bottom overlap the plywood, or if I'm going to have that plywood butt up against the balsa on the inside. So that's why I'm leaving it a little bit long. I haven't figured that out yet. But in order so I don't tear this thing all apart, and it's a rough edge, I'm just going to shave that thing down just so it's more manageable, I'll put it that way. So just taking my X-Acto knife, my number 11 blade, and just shaving that down to a manageable, and I'm keeping about 1/8 of an inch. I guess that'd be a good number. I'll take my paper and just smooth out any rough edges. That looks pretty good. So if you can see that, there's about 1/8 of an inch left up there. I'll go ahead and show that to you there. From the front, okay, down, maybe to the side. Sorry, not on camera. Okay.
And then here, I've got actually some pictures too. While you're talking, I'll bring that up. Actually, no, I don't have pictures. Okay. Never mind. Scratch that.
And that's okay. No. And then the next step is I'm going to trim that firewall. You can do a couple things here. When sanding light ply, there's really one direction that it's really happy sanding. So, and that's typically going away, or I'm sorry, going vertical with it. If you start doing this way, you're going to peel these fibers right out of there. Okay. So the best trick is you can take a Dremel tool with a nice clean Dremel tool saw and cut that down to a 1/16 of an inch. You can take your X-Acto knife and you can trim that back as well, or you can start sanding. I try to do as little sanding as possible just because of the dust and all that stuff. But so I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut it down as close as I'm comfortable with not getting too crazy, and I'll just lightly sand back the rest. And I'm just rolling it on my little cutting pad here, as you see, so that I'm not tearing anything up, or trying not to. I'll put it that way. I'm not done yet.
So a couple of questions while he's cutting. Yeah, Wild Bill, that's thin CA he used. He used thick on the inside, but he used thin everywhere else. And then
the thin CA works real well on that thin of light ply. So
yeah, because that was the recommendation from before. When you're gluing the light ply to the balsa, we recommend that you don't use the thin, because the thin's going to wick towards the side of the balsa and not get into the ply as well. But when you're dealing with that 64th balsa, it's perfectly fine. And yes, Ronnie is still with us. Ronnie has got college things, and then he has to work at his job on Saturday, so he will be rejoining the episode on next Tuesday.
Ronnie's got fans.
Ronnie's got fans.
All right, I need to check on something here. Make sure hang on one second. I need to go off camera to make sure my dog didn't grab a part. Oh, she's good. I have a little Beagle Cocker Spaniel mix that if I drop something on the ground, she will get it before I can pick it up. And I did. I dropped my struts. Okay.
So here's a close-up of what Chuck's working on, just so you guys can see. Okay, he's got this already done. I've built the head so we were able to bring it up on camera. And this is exactly what he's working on right here.
All right, almost done sanding here. Then we're going to move on to the next step. Actually, we're going to jump ahead a little bit, if you will, because we kind of, at this point, we've almost built ourselves into a box. Okay. Now, if you've been following along with your build, Dave and Gary out there jumping ahead. Okay. We pre-built, mounted our blind nuts for our upper cabane struts, our forward cabane struts. Let's call it for what it is. All right. That one goes in like that. That one goes in like that. And when we were building it, we took our 440 and we would go through the bottom to screw them in, or actually more through the side. Unless you have super, super tiny hands, maybe get your wife involved or your kids, you still have a little bit of room in here to do that by hand with a small Allen wrench, or maybe even a modified 440 wrench. Okay, but we're a little lucky here because on the Newport 17s, there was access panels on each side for the engine. One's for the fuel, one's for ammo, I believe. So, fuel and oil, I apologize. So, and these parts are actually provided in the kit. There's a couple pieces of aluminum, and I had them out, but I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay, there's a couple of pieces of aluminum that are in there. What I'm going to do is get rid of those. They're approximately, I'll cut the piece out as per the plans, and I'll put it in position. Say, for example, and it goes something about like that. Well, that just happens to be perfect what I need to get my 440 Allen wrench in there, or ball driver. So what I'm going to do, when this is all done, right before I glue these stringers on, I'm going to trace that panel down, and I'm going to cut about 1/4 of an inch on the inside of that shape. Now that doesn't have to be too perfect because no one's going to see it. I'll remove that part because that panel is going to glue right on top of there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that panel on, which I'll cover my airplane with my silver covering. I'll take silicone, just regular old clear silicone, and lightly with very thin, almost like a CA kind of bonding, if you will. I'll CA or a silicone the bottom of that panel, and I'll put it in place. Okay. That way, if I ever need to remove those struts for whatever reason, all right, all I gotta do is pop loose that silicone, and it will roll right off. It'll clean up nicely. You'll do whatever you need to do, silicone it back on, and it's like a perfect access. You could be super creative and do magnets if you wanted to, like a little tongue magnets. That's up to you. But there's actually an access panel there, and a little bit different shaped one on the other side. And that's what I'm going to do. And that way I won't have to worry about trying to cover. If I put those in now or put them in before I did the cheeks, I don't have to worry about trying to do some special nice cutout on my iron-on covering and getting all these grooves and crannies. So there you go. That's a little tip for you. So don't worry about it. Once again, I'll probably cut my cockpit out and these at the same time. That way that'll be the last thing I do before I do my covering. For you guys, you'll do that and then do your final stringering and you're ready for covering. Okay, guys, the really good news is we're almost completed with the fuselage. We have a couple of more things to do. The next thing is,
shout out to Jerry Yarish. Going to shout out to them. Wild Bill's here. Derek's here. Thanks for coming in, everybody. Don't forget to swing over Boss USA and enter in BossUSA.com, I should say, and enter in coupon code N17 build, all caps, no spaces, and you can grab your Newport 17 and get a 10% discount and be able to follow along with the build. While we're at kind of a pause place, I'm also going to cover the YouTube channel. So if you head over to the YouTube channel, and I would love it if you guys could get this done during the show, we need, and I'm pulling up the tab here, we need 100 more subscribers to be able to pull the trigger on the quarter scale giveaway. Now, we're going until May the 8th. May the 8th would have been the first full Friday of July 2020. Since it got canceled, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to keep that going, and we're still going to do the drawing. If we reach 3K on or before, we're still going to do it on that Friday. So keep in mind, if you subscribe now, anybody that subscribes and gets over 3K, is still going to have the opportunity to be there, because I'm not going to be doing the drawing until the first full Friday of Joe Nall.
That's so cool. So guys, come out there. Let's get your friends, share this. How cool it be that we actually hit that 3,000 mark live here on our YouTube and our Facebook posts during our N17 build. I don't know if on any of those stuff that we've done that's happened, but that'd be really cool. That could be one of our own little personal milestones. Okay, before we forget, it's okay now. Before we move on to the final 2 little steps, it's okay to sand that wing settle back. Remember, that's why that little shelf was there. So we're gonna take that and we're just gonna knock it back. Looking pretty good. Remember, let that sandpaper do the work for you. And kind of get a nice little joy out of a nice, good finish. So there it is, looking pretty good. Now, one thing I'd like to add, if you do the BIS version, you might have to add a little bit of scrap of wood, which would be left over from really any one of your sticks. And I'll do it this way. I'll use this as my pointer, okay? Is right here. So from this bulkhead, all right, on the wing saddle to the trailing edge, just a filler piece so that when you do the covering, it has something to wrap around to, and it doesn't step off this gap right here. So primarily, you're only worrying about this, but if you glued it from here to there and then sanded flush down, it'd make a nice transition for the covering. So just something I found out when I did all the other ones. So when I did the side over here. So, and guys, I just broke another stringer, so I'm gonna glue it up real quick. All right, so the next step is to add the corner gussets. And I believe this is on step 16. Step 16, it talks about cutting that out and sanding that flush and nice and smooth for the sheeting. And then 17, step 17, which is our final step for the evening, is adding the gussets. And what these gussets are, I put one in place. Let me see from the inside there. You can see on the inside, they're mounted on the inside of the fuse, right here. Okay. See it from the outside. All right, from the inside. And what that does is that just strengthens that corner joint. That's a, it's where the lower wings will be mounted down to. So there's good strength down in there. So I'm going to mount the last one here.
These are the gussets Chuck is referring to right here.
In place, like that. I'm going to do a little bit of the fixie where it meets plywood. Beautiful. I'm a little bit proud right there in that corner right there. I'll do a little bit of sanding on that once that's done. Then the final step is, and this section of the manual, move this stuff off the side, is there's a little mounting area, right? It's going to be a small little triangle right there in the corner. And what that is that's going to be a light ply mounting location for the horizontal stabilizers struts. Okay, they're supporting struts. And they just need some heavier duty material to mount that too. So, and it tells you in the manual to use a piece of scrap wood. So remember that scrap box I told you about to save all the pieces. Here's one. All right, that's from the forward bulkheads. So
we had a question about gussets.
Go ahead.
So you can make them yourself out of scrap, Gary. That's easy to do. But also, if you want, for the ease of use, I have several. If you swing over to www.balsausa.com, we do make laser cut gussets and all the thicknesses that you will ever need. So you can buy them. They're inexpensive. Next time you're going to put in an order, just add some laser cut gussets. I keep a stock of these in all my areas, so I always have them. I have some in my field box. I have some in my trailer. I have some here. they're super easy to make, but for convenience sake, and if you don't have your shop with you everywhere, you can pick up those laser cut gushers over at balsausa.com as well.
Well,
Those are
Joe,
laser
you
cut.
mentioned in your field kit, things happen at the flying site. You don't want to have stop flying, and something like that is almost invaluable. Try to go down to flight line and ask somebody for if they have any piece of balsa. It's almost impossible. So that's a really good point. So there's two things the way for you can make that part in the tail. Okay, take your scrap piece of balsa, lay it underneath it, and then take your pencil and trace through the fuselage. Well, like Joe and I have talked about, we got these meat monkey hands, and it's just not feasible sometimes. So what I did is there's actually in the kit, there's a tail skid mount, which is just a hard point that's already pre-cut. It's out of balsa wood. This hard point actually sits just aft of that part of that tail skid, so it actually butts up to it. So what I did is I took this part, drew my lines, kind of traced it onto here, then extended the line and converged them to a point. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So now that's what I'm gonna, there's my shape. It's already there. All I have to do now is figure out where it starts and stops at. And I'm gonna do that by putting it back on, drawing a simple little mark, take my razor blade, my X-Acto knife, out of my scrap piece of balsa, and I'm gonna cut it out, and I'm gonna glue it in place. And that's what's gonna complete the fuselage at this point. And the exciting part is now we get into the flying bits. So on Saturday, we'll build the horizontal elevator or horizontal stab and one elevator. We'll build the other elevator off-site because we've already built one, so you guys don't need to learn about building two. Then following on Tuesday, we're going to build the rudder. And then starting on Thursday, we get to start with the upper wing. And then now we're into the fun part. So I just almost have this cut out. I did cut it just a little bit proud, so I always like to sand down to my desired.
So Joe Larson brings up a good point. I do the same thing. He says scrap square stick helps in a pinch too. What I do is I keep a small selection in my trailer. I got toolboxes in my trailer. I keep a small selection of triangle stock, gussets, a couple of dowel rods, and some balsa sticks. That stuff comes in handy more often than not. The other thing that I carry in the trailer that's awful handy, and we have packs available over at balsausa.com, is hardware packs. So I keep a full assortment of 440, all that stuff. There's a whole big box in my bin and my trailer that I carry around with me everywhere for that kind of stuff. One of the things I wanted to point out that we are not doing, so just to make sure you guys don't think we're forgetting this step, on step 16 on page 24, we are not cutting out the wing saddle yet. I'm sorry. The wing saddle opening. I said it right.
Yeah.
We're going to leave that in for now.
Yeah.
We're going to leave that in for now because it helps with strength. It helps with handling, and we can cut that out once we get ready to fit the main wing. So just so you guys know what I'm talking about, if you didn't know, this area right here is to be cut out. We're going to leave that in place for now because, again, the whole man hands thing. And it's just, to me, it stays stronger and it'll stay good to go until we get ready to fit the wing later. So we did skip that step.
Yeah, and that was done for us. All right, so you guys can see on the camera there's that little bitty triangle part, which is real difficult, but to do it the conventional way, we're going to stick or a pencil there and trace it down. My method actually worked really good. I fixate that in place. That's good. That's a hardwood mounting part for the horizontal stabilizer supports, and it's going to be set in place with a wood screw. So we'll screw that in place, back the screw out, thin CA to harden it up, and now we have a nice little hard point to do. Okay. Sand it down, sheeting on. For the guys moving on with the N17 standard build, then you do the same thing on the template, and you'd go back and you'd finish that back side, all right? And then sand flush, cut out your wing saddle, and sand everything flush. At that point, guys, that concludes the fuselage. So, Joe, what is this, episode 6 or 7?
This is 7.
7. So at the end of 7, the first episode was setting up our bench. So here we are, six episodes in, roughly 50 minutes a night, taking our time, so we have a fuselage built, which, guys, is the most difficult part of the build. This is the most time-consuming part of pretty much any kind of build. So now we're on the wings, I'm sorry, the horizontal tail group, vertical tail group. We get onto the wings, and Joe, we're going to be done here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's moving along pretty good. And just so you guys know, the intent of this series is we're going to build both of these airplanes, all 3 of these airplanes. Ronnie is actually already caught up to us. And what he doesn't have done, he'll be back on the same page. We're communicating behind the scenes to make sure that we have all the right information and that we're all in the same step. But our intent is to build these up to frame in, and then that'll be it. I'm actually going to do another little series on covering. I'm actually going to cover mine in Balsa USA plain text using Echo Bond and paint it. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we're going to do some other short tutorials just on setup and all that kind of stuff. There'll be a maiden video and all that kind of thing. So stay tuned for all that. We didn't want to leave you guys hanging, so we're going to finish doing that stuff. So,
yeah. And then Ronnie and I will finish ours off camera as well. And we're going to document it on our Facebook channels as well. Our maidens, I'm covering mine, and so is Ronnie and Oratex, Balsa USA product. And here in the next couple of weeks, Ronnie and I will start feeding Joe's color profiles on what we're thinking about. Maybe we'll let you guys decide on what ones you guys like best, and those are the ones we'll do. But we'll also, like I said, we'll document the covering, the radio installation equipment, and so forth, and the maiden flights, which will always be exciting. Maybe it'll be hopefully by that time, we'll be at an event near you, and you can witness the maiden as well.
Joe says Ronnie's going to maiden his on Saturday.
Probably. That's probably why he's not in camera.
So I wanted to point this out. We are going to run a little bit short today, and that's quite okay, I think. Chuck mentioned Oratex. So just so you guys that don't understand, no, Oratex is the alternative that we were able to find for SolarTex. Okay, so Oratex is an iron-on covering that's a fabric. It's very similar to Oratex, but it's not exactly the same. So like the colors won't match, the weave's a little different, but it's basically the same product. It has the dye, it has the glue, it's ready to go. So that's what Oratex is. Plain text is what I'm going to cover with, and I'm going to use the Echo line of bond and fill. So Echo bond and Echo fill, because you can use it indoors. It's completely smell free. And that is actually the same exact material that SolarTex was made from. So what we did was we were able to find the supplier that supplied SolarTex with his raw fabric before he put the glue and the dye on, and we've secured that. We have literally big 2-mile rolls of the stuff, so we're not going to run out of it anytime soon. Okay, and we have an inside line to be able to get more when we need it. But that's how I'm going to cover mine. So I'm going to go the old school way and do the 3-step method. You'll put down Echo bond, you'll put the covering iron, you'll iron it down, you'll put on Echo fill, and then you'll paint it. So that's the difference between the two.
Right. And that's to show you guys both which way we're going. Like I said, Joe said that's a little bit of the older school way. That's how my third scale triplane is done. And the finish is actually quite remarkable. It really is. Especially when you start getting into pinking tapes and all that fun stuff to make it nice and super cool. So here we are. We're going to show you, the easy way, the little bit more difficult way, but also has a little bit better results. So, and I think surprising, our target weight on these things is about 6 pounds, which is the glow version as well. We'll talk about battery installation. All 3 of ours sounds like it could be electric. For any of you glow guys out there are going to do yours glow, please jump in, give us your feedback, show us your installations, fuel tank and engine mounts, all that. We love to see that as well.
Also, we had a couple of guys that shared their pictures, and I apologize to David. I saved your pictures, but I don't know where I saved them to. we'll get those up there so we can share your pictures of your builds. When you guys get started on these and you get going, share them with me and I will share them online. I want to make sure that everybody gets to see what we're working on. And I think it's one of my favorite things to do is to share other people's work. So get those on there, send them to me over at tech@balsausa.com or the team at balsausa.com. Those are both direct emails to me and I will get your builds on the show. Let's see. Chuck, I believe, is using ceiling tiles. So he's got 2 ceiling tiles taped together. That's the blue tape in the middle of his screen is actually where he joined his 2 ceiling tiles together. I am using a piece of drywall, a scrap piece of drywall I have sitting around. I believe, Gary, I believe that's one roll. That's 1 5-meter roll of Vortex to cover this. I believe that's what it is. I would have to look it up to verify.
That's what it was when I did the, when Ronnie and I did the pup build at Hangar 331. It was exactly 1 5-millimeter roll. Now the new port has a little bit smaller bottom wing. So I expect to have a little bit lower, some left over. So shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it should be just 1 roll. Yes, I will be sharing the covering, and that's what we were just talking about. I will be sharing that. I'm actually going to do a video series on that as well. It probably would just be 1 video. But we will be sharing that. And no, Dan Landis says, I'd love to see you guys join in and do a D8. Sorry, sir, that is your project and you build it. Dan just got his D8 today. He's very excited. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I learned to fly in a D8.
Yeah, it's a great flying airplane. Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to like it. I'm looking to see, I'm just checking to see if we have any other questions. Hi, Roy from Georgia. Bill, are you asking about, I think Bill was asking about the balsa triangle in the back. You just used balsa. You didn't use basswood on that, did you?
No, it's just, in the very tail.
Yeah.
In the very tail, I actually used a scrap piece of poplar ply, light ply from the kit.
Okay, so
because it is
ply.
a hard point. Okay,
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just trying to make sure we get all the questions answered. I don't see anything else.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, make sure you come back Saturday at 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next episode. We're going to be starting the tail group, so that's going to be pretty exciting. It's always exciting to start the flying parts. Fuselages are fun, but I think the wings are cool, and they just look cool as you're building them as well. Make sure you swing over by balsausa.com and type in coupon code N17 build, all caps, no spaces, and get 10% off on your next kit. On your next Newport 1/6 scale kit. Make sure that you add your gussets in there if you so choose. There's lots of hardware. Make sure you guys check out all the stuff that's there. There's covering, there's hardware, there's all the standard gauge stuff. There's glue, there's CA, there's everything. There's epoxy. Make sure you check us out.
Guns.
During the time where you're getting that 10% off on your kit is a fantastic time to add the accessories. So don't forget your accessories, wheels, guns, and decals. Okay, don't forget those. You'll want those. It's better to do a $100 or more order, just so you know. That way you qualify for free shipping, and it's just like you've seen us at the show. Also, don't forget to swing over by the Balsa USA YouTube. I'm checking the number right now. We are at 100. We need 100 more subscribers. So share that, like Chuck said. Share it with your friends. Share it with your neighbors. Share it with everybody, whether they like airplanes or not. Let's get that 3K so we can give that kit away. I'm really excited to see what people pick. You can pick any quarter scale kit you would like. SPAD, DH4. There's a lot of cool quarters still, airplanes out there. So just make sure we get that 3K. We're going to give that away. So as usual,
guys, so just real quick, if you can build one of these, you can build a quarter scale. I've done both the 17s. They build very similar, just a little bit of workbench, bigger workbench, same materials. You build one of these, get that quarter scale kit, get entered to win that. You can build one of those as well.
And funnily enough, I was just working on the manuals today, going through some stuff and making some corrections and getting some stuff ready. We're going to make the manual section available on the website, and that's what I've been working on, is transfer them over from Quirk files to PDF so that we can use them. for digital content. But I was looking through the Newport 17 quarter scale manual, and it is almost identical. There's
Isn't it
not,
though?
you could almost swap the pictures in the builds and still be able to
Pretty
follow it.
much.
It's crazy.
Just a little bit bigger pieces, but it's
A little bigger pieces. That's all it is. Perfect. All right. Well, I want to say thank you guys all very much for showing. I want to thank you all personally for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Tomas and Robert and Joe and Gene and Gonzalo and everybody else that showed up. It was very good to see you. We appreciate you guys spending some time with us. Don't forget to share your pictures of your builds with us so that I can share them online. And don't forget next Saturday, or this Saturday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's Daryl Peck. So this whole thing, real quick, Daryl Peck, this whole thing, all the stuff that you see here, all the stuff that you see over there in my shop and all this is all his fault. It's all Daryl's fault. Daryl did it. Daryl walked out to my job one day and said, hey, come out to the field. We fly RC airplanes. And that was it right there. So it's this guy's fault. So if you don't like me and like what we're doing, blame this guy. His phone number is 517. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's all his fault. He changed my life, and I'm appreciative of it every single day. So it was good to see him on here. All right. So I want to thank Chuck for being here with us. We miss you, Ronnie. We hope to come back to see you soon. Thanks for sharing all the insights. Thanks for sharing all the tips and tricks. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and happy building.